I've grown so much from other people's stories. And if it were just a one-on-one, I wouldn't have had that opportunity to grow with other people and to learn from their stories. And I've had people message me and thank me for sharing, my story. And I'm like, really? I didn't realize that would impact others, but we're all impacting one another. Yeah. So, yeah, the community is wonderful, and the shared calls are incredible. Yeah, definitely.
Imagine discovering a pathway that cuts through the noise of trying to heal, to instead offer you a clear, revolutionary initiation into your most connected, abundant, loved, and purpose-filled self. A place where your dreams transform into personal reality. I'm Allura Halliwell, founder of the Consciousness Method, and it's with deep gratitude that I connect with beautiful souls who have already experienced this transformative method firsthand. They'll share how it has profoundly changed their lives and led them into inner truth. Hi, Rach. Welcome to the Consciousness Method podcast. I have been so excited about having this conversation with you.
Oh, thank you so much, Allura. It is a real honour to be here. And I do have my tissues today, just in case.
Yay, we need those. Such deep work we're doing, touches all the parts. And you've been on a journey. And why I really wanted to have a conversation with you was because I've just witnessed you just really deeply connect with yourself over the time we've been doing this work, but on another level that I felt was just a little bit out of reach for you when we met. And I think maybe it would be great for everyone to hear where you were at when we met before we began the mentorship, and so we can sort of understand how you've journeyed from that space.
Yeah, okay. So the catalyst for me for connecting with you was I noticed elements of control with my granddaughter and real anxiety and stress around how she was feeling, how she was dealing with life. And what I realized was that there was all this pain coming to the surface and trauma and deep emotion because she was reaching an age where I could recall parts of my childhood. And I think when my own kids were at that age, I was so busy and in another mindset completely that I dealt with it differently. But this time I was in a really deep state of anxiety, mainly around it. And then there was an incident that happened with family, and I was really miserable. And a friend reached out to connect, and I said, I can't, I'm in this hole. And she said, I know that you need to connect with Allura. I know that she can help you. And she explained to me, she said, I know, Rachel, you really understand so much, but there's something else that you need to tap into. And I think just because of the timing was perfect. And I reached out to you. But prior to that, I also know that for years I've been really focused on my values and living a life aligned to my values, and growth and expansion and evolving consciousness and even a conscious community, collective consciousness was always in those top three values. And I had not been able to find a tribe or anything that resonated really deeply with me where I felt that I could expand all of that, And so even from our first conversation, I was like, this is it. This is it, There's community, there's connection, there's growth. yeah. So it was those things that brought me here. But yeah. Shall I go back earlier and talk about even the mindset work and
Yeah, because I think that's so important because I think a lot of people listening might resonate with the levels of work you'd done prior to really, we can see now maybe create a bit of a protection around yourself and your pain, but you're really coming at that with such a loving honoring of yourself, but just how how that sort of unraveled for you in those seeking, yeah, that seeking.
I think growing up, I just blocked everything out.
Mm.
And then as a teenager, I turned to alcohol. And even in my early 20s, I used alcohol as therapy. I wouldn't talk about anything in my life, and then I would drink way too much and then tell everyone the whole story, like,
Mm.
and the pattern would just keep repeating itself and repeating itself. And then once I'd had kids, I started to read books on, growth. But what actually happened was I developed a mindset around positivity and gratitude and focusing on joys and happiness. And
Mm.
I directed my life, I channeled it in that way. And it's also the way I channeled it for my children. And yeah, so what I really did was shut down the whole of me and the heaviness and the density, in this one pursuit. I was actually blocking so much, and a lot of work on presence and now, but not if it was a heaviness or a density, then that had to be pushed down. And it was like, no, 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 come back to the joy, come back to the positivity. Yeah. So when I started working with you, um, that was really, really hard to break.
Yeah, it was very confronting, that piece, because from my perspective, I could see how you'd created such a beautiful survival mode of these really ultimately fabulous frequencies and values and ways of being, but they were the top level, and underneath there was this density that was almost creating this shutdown in you that meant you could have those feelings, but you almost disconnected from yourself beneath it. And I do honor that it was a little bit maybe confronting or just challenging to begin with, to kind of dig in and go, hey, there's this stuff below that's anchoring everything. And that's often why we stretch into the positivity, because we just do not want to face that part. So tell me a little bit about that journey that we went on to kind of begin to unravel that awareness that maybe there was another place to go.
Oh, I remember it took so long. It was so, I skimmed around at a surface level and I thought I was delving in and, I was doing the homework in the modules but I was just skimming along the surface. And there were a few times that I would have little realizations. And after a couple of months, because I was still skimming around there at the top level after a few months, and I remember you saying to me, we need to go deeper, you need to go in deeper. And I remember there's no deeper thinking, there's no deeper to go, this is it, this is it. And I couldn't feel anything. And I was trying to do the pain and fear meditations. I was doing them over and over again, and there was nothing there. And I remember having a one-on-one with you, and I realized I was so invisible to myself. It was, I wasn't there in any scenario at all. It was just invisibility. And then you said to me, keep showing up every day for the calls. And I think that really shifted something for me once I started showing up every day, just having the accountability. And also in those calls, I began getting really frustrated. I was feeling frustrated because everyone else was sharing their story and their successes. And I was thinking, I'm never going to get there. I'm never going to, the depth of me isn't going to reveal itself. And I just remember being so frustrated. And then I listened to a podcast, and it was another girl who had been in the group for 3 months. And I thought, I'm coming up 3 months and I'm not getting anywhere. And yeah, so I was able to access the pain through the frustration of our calls. And yeah, so once I could access that pain, the little niggles started coming up, but it still took a little while. And I found, even though I was doing the pain and fear meditations and going into the pain and fear, it was actually when I was out on my morning walks each day that I would have the biggest breakthroughs. When I'd done them enough, it kind of felt like I could tap into them so easily and just straight away go pain, feel it, fear, what's underneath this. And there had been a story around something happened to me around suicide, not of myself, but of somebody else. And I shared a story with you about my mum's attempts at suicide, and I was reflecting on that on one day on one of my walks and doing the pain and fear. And you told me that I hadn't saved my mum like I thought I had. And then I thought, if I hadn't saved my mum, then maybe I was the whole reason, or my siblings and I were the whole reason that then she endured 20 more years of physical and mental pain, that she wouldn't have had to if she had succeeded. And then I think the madness and the craziness of the stories, like they just filled my head, and it was explosive. And I thought, I can't do this anymore. I can't have these stories. And then for the first time, because I hadn't been able to connect to my little self, every time we went back with a family story, it was all about me saving everyone else in my family. And it had been going on for months. Every time we went in to find little me, I could find my siblings, or I could find my mum, I could find my dad, but I couldn't find me. But in this incident, as my head felt like it was going to explode, it was just like my little self just come to center stage, and that the light was shining on her. And it wasn't that, it didn't diminish any of the stories of any of my family. It was just that they kind of faded into the background, and I could come to the forefront of my story, so, it was that point, that meeting point of me. Yeah.
It's like the moment you really arrived.
Oh my gosh. And it was so incredible how instantly so many things happened, like within 24 hours. My daughter, who's so independent and, is living this life in Indonesia and doesn't need anybody, just does everything for herself. And within 24 hours, she had called me and she was like, Mum, I want you to come and visit me, and little things like, I don't know, it doesn't seem really, it's not nothing huge. But I went out to drop my grandkids off, and my son said, Mum, let's take the kids mushrooming, and that hadn't happened for so long, for a few years maybe. And it was, him and I and the two kids, and it was, just this beautiful day. It's that kind of 20 out of 10 joy, that just the phenomenal joy, and it's just like when you do that work of yourself, it's so expansive that it opens up the world into something bigger than we can ever imagine for ourselves.
And that just feels like what you express, that's the true joy. That true feeling of joy, that aliveness in yourself, and that connection is so, I can feel it. It's so real and authentically there. And this is the thing I think people fear when they go, I don't want to go into the pain and fear. I don't want to lose my joy or my positivity or feel anything. And it's like, but that is where you begin to crack open to really feel everything. And I just think that's why your story is so important, because you actually moved from this sort of artificial design around that to a truthful design in that, in yourself.
Yeah, it prior to our work, it kind of the joy felt almost forced. You know, like it didn't feel whole and complete and spontaneous, um and that could be because of my connection to wholeness now. That and even my because I allow my connection to the density and the heaviness. I'm allowing my connection to everything. I'm not blocking anything.
That's exactly it. When we expand into the truthful relationship with everything, we get it, the whole thing. So it's such a beautiful, as you say, wholeness experience. And in that, I think we have an opportunity to go to some places in our lives. And I know for others that have experienced levels of trauma, we almost have blocked them and shut them off and gone, we cannot open that door again because I don't know what will happen if we do. And I know you've opened doors that you thought were probably shut for a long time, and you've had the bravery and the knowing to go there. How has that been, just to have the experience of going to some of the places where you never thought you could really go?
Initially, it was really confronting, and a few times it felt like my head was going to explode. You know, that just the sensations were so intense, and the work was so intense. Um, to go back and revisit has been really hard, but I've also known, I quite often think of the bear hunt. We're going on a bear hunt, and, we can't go under it. Can't go over it, can't go under it, can't go around it. We've got to go through it. And that's exactly what it is, that you have to go through it. So, yeah, yeah, it has, in all honesty, it's extremely difficult. Um, but I also think that I'm rewriting stories with each of those people now. Even though my mum and dad have both passed, I feel like I'm rewriting the stories. Even yesterday, we did some work, and you said to me, "What was your dad's greatest fear? What was your mum's greatest fear?" And my siblings, and I'd never considered that element before. And even that expanded my consciousness even more, It just made the picture so much bigger.
It's so, so powerful, isn't it? The way the consciousness moves through this and just shows us and illuminates all the parts. And I think that's what it is to bring light, is actually to bring light to the parts that are obscured or not able to be seen or in fear or in pain. And you're right, it takes a lot of bravery. It takes a huge amount of bravery to shine that light and to step in and do that. And then I think the multidimensional nature is so big in this. And you're right when you say we're rewriting realities, because we are, from the inside out. And, that meeting of the versions of us that we've never met, and expanding the relationship with them is so powerful, because it changes the relationship with everybody around us. And that's what I'm kind of, feeling. And you've sort of spoken into that, but that sense of going back to that little girl and rewriting her experience, and then having different experiences with family members that have just changed the whole dynamic, maybe for you and how you feel about them.
Absolutely. And it's something that is ongoing for me.
Yeah.
Although my parents have gone, with my siblings, and I know too there will be things in future with my own children, or there will be things to work on, and I'm excited about it. It doesn't seem, and if there is a hiccup, then that's something to work with, or even if it's something massive, that's something to work with, and knowing that as a result of that work, that the relationships are going to shift. and, and it'll be more magical than I can ever imagine, and yeah, that part is just phenomenal and exciting. And this is how we change the future, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you're so right in saying that the evolution will keep coming in all the forms. What would you say about what the method, the consciousness method, has sort of given you in terms of now knowing that whatever arises, you have a way to meet that evolution even beyond the container?
Oh, so much. Everything that I have learned so far, I will carry forward with me. Uh, yeah, there's been so much. The pain and fear portal, I will use that forever, forever, because it's part of our wholeness that we're going to have pain, we will experience pain, but also that through the pain is our growth. And a lot of work of stretching the nervous system. Um, yeah, pushing myself through the discomfort being on this interview today. um, and uh, building relationships. I'm excited about, taking the work I've done out into the world away from the container, like you said. But also, yeah, at this at the current moment, I love the container as well.
Yeah.
And it is a little bit. I don't want to think beyond the container just for a while because it's such a beautiful, safe place where we're so held by you and by one another.
Mm.
Yeah, it is truly a special place. So,
Yeah, that's a
yeah.
beautiful thank you reflection because I think some people are sometimes a bit like, oh, will I just get lost in a container with a lot of other people and not get done what I need to get done? What was your experience of being in a container with me?
Well, I think because I didn't know, I hadn't worked with you personally or privately, so I came straight into the container. There was a small group of us that began at the same time, but I actually thrived from the container. I think the container, it seems to me like it's just consciousness expanded because as each person brings their story in, there are parts of us that haven't even considered another story or a different aspect or it relates to us. Some days I will be crying because I'm sad for someone else. Some days I'll be just filled with joy because someone's risen above something or, they've expanded themselves. And it's just, there's so much energy within that container and so much growth. I've grown so much from other people's stories. And if it were just a one-on-one, I wouldn't have had that opportunity to grow with other people and to learn from their stories. And I've had people message me and thank me for sharing, my story. And I'm like, really? I didn't realize that would impact others, but we're all impacting one another. Yeah. So, yeah, the community is wonderful, and the shared calls are incredible. Yeah, definitely.
And Rachel, just a question because you've been doing this deep work in yourself, but as a mum and of older kids as well, how have you felt that this understanding of you has affected your understanding of your kids and the way their consciousness maybe is in this work?
Yeah. When my kids were little, I was fully into the mindset of the joy and the gratitude, and I instilled that in them as well, so they could talk to me about anything that was joyful or positive or uplifting. And if it became heavy or dense, I would flip it and I would say to them, oh, you've got to feel sorry for that other person or that experience. And I wasn't allowing them to have the wholeness of their experience. And I reflect back on that now and I see how deeply that has impacted their lives. I see it in each of them, how it's impacted them. And particularly, I think earlier on for one of my daughters, uh, developed anorexia and suffered for several years. And I think of the role that my mindset actually played in all of that. And I know I was being the best version of a parent that I could have been at that time. But in hindsight, I see the impact that it had on my children and how it affected them. And my daughter and I have had a beautiful healing journey, and we have come to a very special place, and we communicate really effectively about it all. And I'm not sure that she would share my awareness around it. I think that's because she feels so much love for me that she wouldn't want me to feel hurt or disappointed. But I do really see the role that I played for each of them. Definitely.
Yeah. And so do you feel having this sort of opening around your wholeness and capacity to hold even those parts that aren't positive or light filled, you can feel a different level of connection maybe forming through space and time with them now?
Oh, definitely. And it's probably something that I want to channel more of and do more work around and explore more deeply. I think there's a big uh, chunk of work I can still do around that. Yeah. Um, I really look forward to doing that.
And just to have the consciousness to know that that needs to be done is so powerful, because I think it's easy to go, well, that was in the past, it's done, there's nothing we can do. But as we know from this work, everything's connected and everything's multidimensional. So even though it's very, sort of now, it's also that whatever we're doing now is traveling through all space and time in either direction. So to have the insight that that is something you want to reform in yourself and reform in the field of relating to your kids means that it goes in all directions and it changes the structure of the relationship, not just for them, but then ultimately for them with their own parenting, because that part of them that wasn't safe to be not okay is now safe to be not okay. And then their kids can be safe to not be okay. And then it's a different lineage of experience that we're offering. So it's a beautiful intention and beautiful work to do.
It's huge, isn't it? Magnificent.
Yeah. And is there anything else, Rachel, you want to share? I'm so grateful for your words. Actually, there's one piece that I also want to, I remember when you found your wholeness, so to speak, and it was just such a joyous moment to share in. And I know for a lot of people in the container, just to feel you so alive in that, and you've continued to kind of really embody that. Can you kind of share a little bit about what that felt like to step into that place within yourself? Like, it just felt so magical, but so real.
I think up until that point in time, I felt really, probably for a long time, I hadn't used a lot of words. I was using language really minimally, and I didn't feel like I could articulate myself really clearly. I was probably feeling, I wanted to take on all the advice, but I didn't have the confidence to express myself. It was actually a block. It was part of that density that I had suppressed for so long, that being able to communicate clearly was part of the block. The same way the joy was blocked and everything was blocked, partially, so was my voice. And I remember the call, and I went to tell you the story about how I'd found my little self. And I just remember feeling so elated and so joyous. And I spoke for about 3 minutes. And then at the end of it, I was like, oh my gosh, where did that all come from? Whoa, yeah, just that excitement and, yeah, the elation. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
beautiful.
And one other thing I've really noticed in these last few weeks is the in between, sitting in that space of nothingness, of emptiness, and that's been a really special time for me, particularly because I did go away to Indonesia with my daughter, and I allowed myself all of that space and all of that time, and you know, not forcing life, but allowing life. You know, like having the curiosity to allow it to come to me, you know, like not needing to control it, just having complete surrender to that in between. And yeah, and it was really special. And that's such an important place to be as well. And yeah, and not trying to control our lives. You know,
Mm,
what is meant for us is going to come to us in
yes.
a bigger and more magnificent way than we could ever imagine if we just open ourselves to it. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that expression. And I think it's, like hearing you express the in between, it's a gift to hear how it's so valuable for you to live in. And I think something about this modality that I've noticed is that it just has so many beautiful parts that help you understand your existence.
Yeah.
For other, looking at that sort of space where you're in that maybe nothingness of not pushing, not forcing, not reacting, not also not hiding or suppressing, but just in the essence and the wholeness of you and allowing the relationship with life to flow. I think the understanding of that is such a huge gift because we don't work in the duality of being separated and whole and unloved, unworthy, unknown, and then loved, worthy, and known. We work in the whole spectrum of that, which includes the in between, when we're really in this voidal connective space where we're okay to not have to be in the duality anymore. Yeah, which is beautiful to hear you reflect and kind of anchor that knowledge as well to live in
Yeah.
that.
It's difficult not to go back into what is my purpose, you know, and I've, because I've questioned myself on that constantly. Well, I had up until the the breakthrough that I had and sitting in the in between. And then I was like, I'm just not asking myself that anymore. And so yesterday it was really interesting because you and I were having the conversation and you brought up purpose. And I was like, yes, this is it. It was going to come to me in the time it wasn't meant to come to me. And
Yes.
yeah, so yeah, it yeah, it's amazing. All of the work is amazing. Yeah.
Oh, Rachel, thank you so much. And if someone's listening and thinking, should I come into the mentorship or not, what would you say to them?
I would say for me, it's been life changing and it is incredibly hard work initially. Once, for me, once I had the breakthrough, I now realize that there will be more pain, there will be more fear, but that I will survive it. And it's exciting to think that there's going to be a more expanded, evolved version of myself. And then also that means of collective consciousness too. So the more people that come in, the more we're going to evolve consciously and collectively. And that's just the most exciting thing of all.
I absolutely agree with you. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing your voice and your story because the resonance, I think, for so many that have been maybe on a similar path of trying to suppress and be in the positivity and the light, but also knowing that that density is not worked through yet. And then the bravery of you to go and work in that and how that's shifted so much. I'm hoping that that touches a lot of other beautiful humans that are kind of a little stuck in that state. So thank you for your story, Rachel, and thank you for your honoring of the space and the consciousness. And it's been such a gift to walk alongside you.
Oh, it's been such a gift to have you in my life. And I know I said it on behalf of all of us, because you are the safe container, and you are taking us to these new levels so much more rapidly than we would have been able to do it alone. And, sometimes there are just no words for gratitude and for the depths of gratitude. So thank you so much.
Oh, I feel that with my whole heart, Rachel. It's my honor. Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure to spend this time with you, and to say thank you, I'd like to share with you 3 beautiful meditations to explore your core wounding and a collection of masterclasses. You'll find these in your show notes. And if you feel the synergy to this path, know that it is available to you also.